Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Shadows of Change and patch 4.0 for Total War Warhammer 3, both Immortal Empires and Realms of Chaos. This is a Realms of Chaos campaign that I've been playing as Yuan Bo, just to get through most of it as quickly as possible, and well, I am on the verge of winning this campaign. I just need 3 turns until I can unlock the final battle. It's funny because Creative Assembly did give us the ability of posting like 75 turns. I imagine they expected players would be slower. I guess they haven't been paying attention to everything that Legend of Total War has been teaching the community over the last couple of years. Suffice it to say, Yuan Bo is quite very powerful. But let's take a look at what has been changed for Cathay in terms of race mechanics and how Yuan Bo does work. And I'll also go over his situation in Immortal Empires and how to handle that. So, there are no major changes to Cathay with the exception of 2 things. The harmony system is gone, or the one we knew it is gone. Thank God for that, because it was really frustrating and annoying. You either use the mod to make it irrelevant, or you just was constantly frustrated throughout the entire campaign. They have changed that in a significant fashion. So now, what you do with each province, Yin and Yang are no longer attached to lords, to heroes, or research. So you can finally actually get a bunch of useful stuff, like for instance getting dragon scales. I think the research tree has been changed to a small extent, but nothing too substantial. There's still a value in Yin and Yang characters. So for instance, the first research you get as Yuan Bo gives campaign movement range for Yang characters and casualty replenishment benefits for Yin units, so ranged units. Which is a bit weird because I think Yang units could benefit from that more. But regardless. The way Yin and Yang mainly works, the main importance it has is on each individual province. A province can either be Yin, Yang, or in harmony. Let's take a look at what this does. So over here in the wastelands of Jinshan, it's a Yang province. Now, Yang provinces can give you up to 10% research rate, recruitment minus 30% recruitment cost, recruit rank, and plus 2 local recruit capacity. The local recruit capacity is greatly appreciated because one of the problems Cathay had is that they had a limited amount of local recruitment capacity. So you can recruit armies cheaper, faster, and at a higher rank if you go full on Yang. It starts at Yang 1 or 1 to 2, where you have 5% research, minus 10% recruitment cost, 1 recruit rank, and 1 local recruitment capacity, and it improves from there. So there's 3 ranks to this. Yin works differently. Yin buffs your growth, your construction cost, and your control. And also, crucially, your construction time. It goes all the way to 6. So at 6, you're getting a minus 1 construction time for all buildings, plus 30 growth, minus 20% construction cost for all buildings, and free control. But what does Harmony give you? Well, Harmony gives you 20% campaign movement range, minus 15% upkeep for armies in province, and plus 15% income. Like, I think once you have built everything you want in a province, like once the construction is finished, you may want to get Harmony because of that massive benefit in terms of income. So over here in the Warpstone Desert, I'd probably want to swap over to Yang. One great thing as well is that you can now just go over here, hover over a building, and just start transferring buildings over from Yin to Yang if you so desire. So that's one of the things I would start doing. It also looks like there's been some economic changes to Cathay made as well to their economic buildings. So nothing too substantial. Though I think there are some economic changes, but I haven't looked in some greater detail. There's also new landmarks, all that kind of stuff. And then, if you're playing Yuan Bo, there's also the special landmarks he gets, the astromantic relays that you can build. These will start an event similar to what the Wood Elves have to deal with when they're doing the rituals. So you're doing your own rituals. They start once you finish constructing this building. It is a expensive building. It's like 10,000, I believe. You get hero capacity for astromancers, winds of magic, and spell resistance plus 10% for all armies. And I believe this does stack. So if we look at the one in Wei Jin, it does the same thing. And I think this is going to end up stacking. And that means you can get a ridiculous level of capacity for Astromancers. And also a ridiculous level of like being able to recruit them at rank 23, for instance, over there. So Cathay got a Harmony system change. And then they got the Whooshing Compass changed as well. You have the since Harmony is no longer, the campaign Harmony is no longer a thing, they put the Ancestral Warrior's ability into the Great Bastion, and now when you have the Compass there, you get that army ability, and it will also reduce recruitment cost, reduce Great Bastion threat, and obviously give you casualty replenishment, which it was already doing. For a Compass, there's 4 directions you have by default. The other 4 are only unlocked for Yuan Bo. You can still see them in the other campaigns, but you can't get them. The Celestial Lake still gives you income, but now it gives you control, whereas before I believe it was growth. Growth is now attached to the Nagchang Basin, which only Yuan Bo has access to. This also reduces construction cost and construction time for buildings. The Dragon's Emperor Wrath reduces corruption, gives you and does extreme attrition to armies beyond the Great Bastion, and the Warpstone Desert increases the value of cargo, maximum caravan cargo capacity, and Lord Recruit rank +1 for caravan masters. I think like if you're playing a Cathay campaign, you're probably only going to want to go for the Great Bastion early on, and then switch to Celestial Lake second on, and then maybe the Nagchang Basin. So you get the Nagchang Basin that gives you growth, construction cost, construction time. You get Winds of Magic. If you go for it, you can get Immortal for characters and reduces attrition, suffering from all effects of attrition. So if you're dealing with the Scale Plague, that might help you. You can also get a recruit rank benefit of up to 6 with here. So there's certainly benefits, but for much of your campaign, you're probably going to be switching between Great Bastion and the Celestial Lake, and then Nagchang Basin and others as you unlock them if you need them. But for Cathay, there's some compass changes, and then there's the Harmony change as well. Those are the 2 main changes that have been made for Cathay. What does Yuan Bo deal with? Well, he does get those extra compass possibilities, and he also builds. He also has to deal with those lizardmen, building the relays, fighting those hordes that will spawn, and dealing with them. Crucially for Yuan Bo, what's important to note is that he doesn't have the Bastion for Emitter, but the Kurgans will still be spawning for him to deal with in the campaign. So the Kurgans are still going to be an issue, at least in Realms of Chaos. Not quite sure about Immortal Empires. I haven't noticed them as much, but then you got Village, Zaytan over there in the north, which are prominent. Hell, you got Snitch, which is a major issue, so I haven't had the luxury of noticing whether or not they still do spawn. If we take a look at Yuan Bo, Cathay also got, like, all the Legendary Lords now have quest items. So we can talk about Miao Ying. If we look at her, she gets 2 quest items. Xiao Ming gets 2 quest items as well. And Yuan Bo also has 2 quest items available. Confederations between the major Cathayan factions also seem to be significantly easier. It does still take some effort and some cleverness, but it is still very, very possible to do it. Whereas before, it felt really difficult to get it done. Now, what does he get? He gets a minus 30% upkeep for Onyx Crowmen and J Lions and Jet Lion units. J Lions and Jet Lions can be recruited, if I can find the structure over here, they can be recruited from tier 3 from the Celestial Tower. Now, normally you wouldn't get many of these, but you can get those units. And they're pretty powerful units. They're pretty strong, solid units to use in a battle. You might even make a Doom stack with those. In terms of his skill line, he gets a melee skill, a magical skill, and his special skill line. He also gets the Armies of the Celestial Cohort, which gives spell resistance 50% to Jet Lions, a bonus versus infantry for both types of lions, ability uses for Whooshing Compass, War Compass bound spells, and Mastery of the Elemental wins 4 Jade Lions. That's what that does. His special skill line gives him Lord Recruit rank +5 for Dragon-Blooded Shogun. Minus 20% cooldown to all spells for his army. Hero Recruit rank for Astromancers faction-wide. He gets a control, construction cost, and construction time benefit. He gets diplomatic relations with humans and high elves, and a leadership benefit. Minus 30% upkeep, plus 30% campaign movement range when you're in your own territory, 5% casualty replenishment. Then hero capacity for Astromancers, spell resistance, and hero action success chance for all characters, and then spell intensity plus 50%. He also gets the special ability, Judge, and then Jury for his Executioner ability. So his Executioner ability can really do a significant amount of damage to a single combatant, and will execute units in combat below a 33% HP threshold. This is quite very strong when you're engaging duels. Yuan Bo is good in both his human form and his dragon form. In fact, if you're dueling, you might want to switch him to human form because there are some issues with the hitbox of the dragons. What about the new lore type? Well, the Dragon-Blooded Shoguns are obviously really going to be really good for Yuan Bo, but what do the Celestial Generals do? Well, they get the Leader of Men, which gives them leadership. They basically they're a melee lord with the two-handed weapon, but they get the special skill line that gives them leadership, missile block, armor for his army, for their armies, armor for themselves, missile block chance. Or you can go with weapon strength, or you can go with charge, speed, strider, devastating flanker. Then you also get the ability of the Celestial Sweep, and also the Endurance Aura, which gives melee defense and missile resistance to units around them. So these guys are quite powerful. However, it should be pointed out that the Lore Magistrates have also been changed, and I'd argue quite a bit buffed. So if we're looking at Lord recruitment choices, just to scroll down because I have a lot of them. The Lord Magistrates are 550. The Dragon-Blooded Shoguns are 1,000. The Celestial Generals are 1,000. So the Magistrates are a lot cheaper. And you might want to get them for a couple of reasons. One, they get Logisticon early on in their blue skill line. Replenishment is an issue Cathay has. Then they get Astute General as well and their blue skill line, which gives them Lord Recruit rank and unit experience per turn. Then they have a Sky Lantern as their combat ability. So there's as a mount, so they can do quite a decent amount of range damage with that. They get ammunition, whistling rounds, ammunition that reduces melee defense and melee attack. They can get missile block chance, speed, and then they of course still have the Tactician skill line with all those benefits. The special skill line that they get improves leadership, improves hero self-defense, and enemy hero action success chances reduced by 15%. They get an upkeep melee attack and melee defense benefit for embedded heroes. This feels really out of place for Cathay because it's not like Cathay has powerful melee heroes, though you could potentially steal heroes through the Legion system, and yeah, this would be very, very different then. You do get, crucially, supply line operations. So you get minus 15% upkeep, 20% ammunition, and reduces attrition suffered by 20% for units in the army. Then speed and strider for peasant units, specialized drills, so these will give you banners, and then the Art of War, which gives him Vanguard deployment. So the Lord Magistrates haven't been left behind. They were pretty worthless to recruit beforehand, but now they are very much worth it. Having a couple of these with like secondary or tertiary armies running around the campaign map can be extremely useful because they can run around with armies that are going to be quite a bit cheaper than the others. And that is important. Succeeding in a campaign in Total War Warhammer 3 is all about scalability. How many armies can you have on the campaign map? How cheap are those individual armies? So for instance, this army here is 3.5k. Keep in mind that it takes some damage, that it takes some casualties. This is 3.9k, and it is the better army of the two. Like ultimately, this army is actually going to end up more expensive once I finish recruiting the units than this one, which again has better units and is a full stack of troops. That's what the Lord Magistrates do offer right now in a campaign. Now, regards to Yuan Bo's unique campaign mechanics, it's all about the matters of state. Now, these are tied to steel actions, stone tokens, steel tokens. You'll start with 2 tokens each, so 2 steel, 2 stone. You can get up to 4 of each, but you can really get up to 8 if you put them all in one side. Because whenever you do an action for one side, the tokens will get transferred to the other. So for instance, if I were to do a stone action then that spent 4 tokens like a commercial district, then I would start getting up to 8 steel tokens. That's how you can get access to these actions that either cost 7 or 6 tokens each. That's how that works. Whenever you do an action, the tokens start getting transferred to the other. Though this does take time. I think the timer by default is 5 turns, but you can decrease it. Yes, it is. One such pending token will become available in 5 turns, and winning a battle will decrease this by 1 turn. So every battle you're fighting will decrease this by 1 turn. And it doesn't matter which army is doing it. It's not Yuan Bo's army, it's any army. So in the end game, as you are going to be fighting across a wide theater of operations and fighting a lot of battles every single turn, it is quite possible to get this reset done very, very quickly of tokens. That's how the tokens work. Increasing capacity of tokens from 2 to 4 requires either fortress cities or commercial districts. These do require a tier 3 provincial capital, and then you have to use the fortress city or commercial district action on a provincial capital. And you can always change it. Like, let's say you declare the fortress city, which I did over here for Nangao. I can always change it later for commercial district if I want to. But what do commercial districts and fortress cities do? Well, fortress cities buff military production buildings. They don't affect the provincial capital, they affect the buildings themselves. So for the Jade Barracks over here in Natgao, each tier gives me 1 extra local recruit capacity. For the cavalry chain, it's up to +3 recruit rank. For the artillery chain, 10% ammunition to all armies. For the Celestial Army, +4 recruit rank, and units over here would get 20 armor bonus. There isn't a change based on what I can see over here for the mooring tower and for the celestial beacons, but it's basically these 4 buildings that get affected. What this really means in practice is that you're getting a significant amount of benefits for recruitment, and you have a reason now to actually get all the unit recruitment in a particular settlement. Like, you might want to build a fortress city just to recruit doom stacks with it, because you'd be looking at a +7 recruit rank benefit with 20 armor and a significant amount of local recruitment capacity. So you'd be able to recruit a very powerful army very, very quickly if you had all those unit production structures in a fortress city. What does a commercial district do, on the other hand? Well, a commercial district does the following. The main settlement building gets a significant benefit in terms of income from all buildings increased by 25%, and tradable resources increased by 15%. Like, if we compare this to a regular settlement, you can see what is available and what isn't available. So you're getting the diplomatic benefit, you're getting the tradable resources benefit, and the income from all buildings. So so commercial districts in a province like this vastly improve your income and also give you scalability and economy. Fortress cities are more limited. Commercial districts, however, are really, really powerful for your economy. Like, you would still want to get a couple of fortress cities, but you really want a lot of commercial districts. And you'll need to declare at least 2 fortress cities and 2 commercial districts throughout the course of your campaign in order to get up to 4 tokens each. Now, there's a bunch of actions, but I'm just going to focus on the ones that I feel are actually meaningful. There's a bunch of things that don't matter. Like, for instance, your next tier action is guaranteed to succeed is not really too important. Well, I guess an assassination could be useful, but that's really about it. What is important? Well, for steel, levy the provinces instantly completes recruitment or reduces recruitment by 1 turn. So if I use Levy the Provinces over here at the Great Bastion where I'm recruiting fire, rain, rockets, I can reduce that by 1 turn and actually finish the recruitment of the Terracotta Sentinels. Other things, trespassing immunity, that is useful. Getting campaign movement range, replenishment, foreign territory, ammunition, leadership, pretty useful as well. Fortress City, of course, essential. You can get reserve conscription, so you can use this to get the garrison from a settlement to fight for you. Not sure if that works for the Great Bastion, but even for a regular settlement without a garrison building, it would still be a significant amount of troops that I would be able to use. So let's say you've got an army running around and you just want to deal with it and you don't have armies that are in range, you can use the Matters of State Reserve conscription for that. You can loan an enemy an army to you. Now this is important because it gives you a great deal of power, but also is a way to steal heroes on the campaign map. The way that works is if a hero gets to rank 15, they get Immortal for the most part. There are some exceptions, but by and large, they get 15 by rank 15. So what you do is you get an army loaned to you using the foreign stratagem or through diplomacy. It's available through regular diplomacy with a legion system. You get the army loaned from you. You go into a battle. You deliberately get their hero killed, and then you will get that hero wounded for yourself. In fact, as Yuan Bo, you don't even need to wait until they're rank 15 because you can use the Dragon River, which makes all characters immortal. So you would just be able to do this with even lower ranking heroes, which is great because it gives you a ridiculous amount of power, because it means you can get a wide variety of heroes, like engineers, for instance. Like engineers can be great heroes that give you replenishment, which is actually quite important for Cathay. All that can be achieved. And then Meteor Gambit is especially useful because all your faction armies have their movement ranges reset. All of them at the same time. So imagine you've just finished your turn, you've captured territory, you've dealt with battles. Well, you can go again. Just reset that. That's what Steel can do. Then there's some balance actions here at the bottom. The one that's associated with Steel makes that units count both as yin and yang for activating Battle Harmony. So if you want Battle Harmony and you don't have a balanced army, you can use this for that purpose. For Stone, you get the ability of resetting public order to 0, so if you're about to have a rebellion, that can help you out. You can rush construction of all buildings in a settlement. So for instance, you're building a provincial capital, especially that takes a long time. You can rush the construction, or you're upgrading the Great Bastion. You can rush construction, complete it instantly. This is incredibly powerful. You can create 4 magic items, random. These are not important as I see it, though being able to instantly swap between their yin and yang equivalents where possible can be useful sometimes, if you so desire. Commercial district, I've already explained that, obviously very important. You can get a bunch of experience for your lord. You can reset your reliability with 5 stone tokens. Resetting your reliability means that, let's say I have over here an alliance with Greece, but let's say I want to break that alliance. Now, generally you wouldn't want to do so because your reliability would fall off a cliff, and that would cause a lot of factions that haven't declared war on you already to do so pretty much instantly. Or if they were already edging towards declaring war on you, they will be pushed into doing so. So using this action will help prevent that. This is especially useful because sometimes in a campaign you might want to get, let's say, a non-aggression pact and a trade agreement with the faction, but then like a couple of turns later you want to take their territory. Being able to reset reliability is quite important. You can get a unique Astromancer. I haven't used this so far. I don't feel that's too important. Or you can use fiscal treaties, which increases your income by 2,500 per turn for 20 turns. This is kind of powerful, but honestly, by the point you get it, you're going to already generate a huge amount of money anyway. So money is not an issue in the Cathay campaign, but it can be pretty useful. And then you've got the balance action associated with Stone, which is command the lesser courts. this is probably what you should aim for, beyond doing as many commercial districts and fortress cities. Everything else should be situational, but ultimately getting the Command the Lesser Courts is quite important, because when you use Command the Lesser Courts, here's what happens. You get the choice that give you a bunch of possible benefits. Now, I already have Pledge to Prosperity. Pledge to Prosperity gives you 40 growth, 25% income, 10% casualty replenishment, a lot of defensive supplies. Tranquility gives you sale value of cargo, diplomatic relations with most factions, extra diplomatic relations with human factions, income from trade tariffs and tradable resources produced. Pledge to War gives you replenishment in foreign territory, unit experience per turn, lowered recruit rank plus 10 and minus 10% upkeep. And Pledge to Progress reduces construction time, increases research rate, gives you character experience benefit, and a magic item drop chance. Like over here, I'm going to switch Pledge to Peace. You can't have two bonuses at the same time. You can reset all these tokens, by the way, from 0 to 4. Like, for instance, I was able to do it in 5 turns over here. But that is a significant benefit. And that is what Yuan Bo has to offer. One thing I forgot to mention, though I really should have, is that, of course, commercial districts also don't just improve the provincial capital. They also, they also improve your main economic buildings. I don't think they do anything for these minor buildings. They just improve either the goods emporium or the trade exchange. So for the goods emporium especially, each of these in a commercial district will give you plus 30% sale value of cargo for yen. For yang, it increases your income from trade tariffs by a ridiculous amount. So if we're looking at the normal one, the income from trade tariffs is associated with the yen building. This gives it a much higher benefit to income from trade tariffs than the yen building. So it's all about, like, finally Cathay with this DLC has a way of has the mechanics of actually caring about balancing harmony. Like, I think right now it's really a question of balancing harmony, because you might want to go yang early on for the recruitment benefits if you're recruiting an army, but then you want to switch either to harmony when you're moving across the territory and then eventually switch to yin, or just keep harmony for the economic benefit. If you're playing Yuan Bo, this is even further as Yuan Bo, because you're constantly balancing things out with the steel tokens, stone tokens, various actions, and of course the harmony system. So it is overall really solid from my perspective. And Yuan Bo does seem like he is the best of the Legendary Lords of Grand Cathay, just because he has an extra climate that's suitable, and that is the jungle. And he does start in Lustria and Immortal Empires. Let's go over that. So for Immortal Empires, Yuan Bo will start over here in Lustria at the Isle of the Crimson Skull. He will start with the provincial capital that has a ruined port that you're going to want to rebuild, and also the floating pyramid that you're also going to want to rebuild over here. You do start in sight of Hexwattle. So here's what you want to do in this campaign. There's a couple of things that you want to do in a particular order. First off, you want to go to Mazdamundi and declare war on the Keepers of Bliss and get all the money. You will need that money. Then you might want to go to the Hunts Marshal and declare war on the Skaven, though you can also wait on that. You will want to go to Xiaoming, get the trade agreement and non-aggression pact, and also get the trade agreement with the Burning Wind Nomads as well. You might also want the trade agreement with the Jade Custodians, though keep in mind, don't go too far with these agreements, because you'll ultimately do want to make one with Miao Yang. This should give you a decent amount of starting money. You also start with Shang Wu over here as the provincial capital. It also doesn't have barracks, and you don't even want to build a barracks over here, by the way. Build exotic animal trader. Don't go with any other economic building, because you want to keep harmony. You'll need the campaign movement range. Here, I'd probably recommend recruiting a Yang General, just because of the casualty replenishment benefit you can get from research. So start researching that and get a Yang general. Doesn't necessarily matter what it is, though having the Celestial general will be useful. And what you want to start doing here is recruiting, both globally recruiting and locally recruiting in this particular province. Here, you want, like, once you've decided how many factions you want to declare war on, and you might even go to Nakai and declare war on the Norskins over here for a bit of money. And
Admiral of the fleet.
you want to be careful on how many factions declare war on, but you will need a good amount of money. Now, once all the diplomacy is settled, take your army here. This is on Legendary very hard. Take your army here and auto-resolve this. Get the extra money here as well. Now, once that's done, start recruiting here archers. Because of the casualties you have taken over here, and because of the fact you're recruiting, the AI is going to likely be eager to attack you, at least on Legendary. Then the purpose here is to get this army to attack Yuan Bo. It is a fight you will win. Your army might be damaged, but Yuan Bo himself might be able to solo that entire army. And even if he can't, you do have another trick up your sleeve, which is to enact the Great Bastion and get the Ancestral Warrior ability, which will be even, which will be worth it even further. Now, you then go back to Cathay. You finish your global recruitment, and here's what you do: you levy the provinces over here in Shangwu, and you get a bunch of archers. It would be great to get Jade Warriors, but that's not really going to be a problem. And then you rush construction over here for the floating pyramid. That means on turn 2, you will be able to recruit Jade Warriors. So this is the situation you'll find yourself in. Now, you can decide not to fight on two fronts. I think that overall it is far more beneficial to do so, because you can certainly take the entirety of the Celestial Riverlands and put enough pressure on Snitch that even though you may not win against him yourself, Miao Ying will win against Snitch. So you can secure Cathay. And then you can disband any army here, because without Snitch, Xiao Ming and Miao Ying will kill Lokir on their own and stabilize Cathay. However, it should be pointed out that when you take control over the entirety of the Swamps province, you will get an event that makes you choose between keeping Shangwu or giving it up. You could be a bit sneaky and give it up after taking the Baleful Hills, and then just take it back for yourself once that's done. Though I'm not entirely certain who it gives it to. It could be the Jade Custodians if it's Yao Ming. I have chosen never to give it up so far because you have all the tools needed to succeed. Keep in mind here, there's only minor factions against you, and the only major threat you're going to encounter early on in your entire campaign is Mazdamundi if you decide to go for it. Now, what would you do after this particular point? Right? This army should attack you at this point. The AI, it's in range, crucially. It's just within range over here for them to attack you. Your army is damaged. They do have some beefy units. But you do and the AI doesn't consider army abilities. The AI is a poor judge of, when to attack, when to not attack. So they'll attack here. There's a third army, by the way, of greenskins that's around here. What is this creative assembly? You put 3 different armies of greenskins here. It's a bit weird. Once you do so, you might want to rush for this particular settlement before Marcus Wolfhard takes it, and then sell it to him. That will give you the alliance, and that will secure your entire south. Once that's done, you move north. You take these 2 settlements over here, and then you move on Hexoatl, wipe it out, take over this entire area. If you want an alliance with Marathi, you take Sulfurettes, and that should be enough to push it towards an alliance. Or you could decide to fight her and make an alliance with other factions that want her territory. In Cathay, the reason I didn't get the barracks here is because there is one here in the Baleful Hills, if I am not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I've always had the barracks here show up. And even if it doesn't show up, you'll just capture the settlement and just build one yourself. It's no problem. But so far in all my testing, and I've started this campaign multiple times, there's always been a barracks here. If there is not, if you want to play it safe, you could just decide to build one yourself here, and then if you don't get one in the Baleful Hills, okay, but if you do get one, you just remove it from your main settlement. And what you do in Cathay is actually more important than Lustria. Lustria is going to be a joke early on. It's Cathay that's going to be the problem. What you should do is you take the Celestial Riverlands and you force march over here to Tai 2 and sell it to Xiaoming. And then you march over here to Singpo. Though the timing here is crucial because you can take the Forests of the Moon, but it's quite just as likely that you put in all the work in fighting Snitch, and your armies can fight Snitch, because a bunch of archers and Jade Warriors will kill Snitch's Skaven slaves. Be careful about himself, but you may end up in a situation where you have to resolve him. Keep in mind his dueling ability, though. But you might put all the work required over here to eliminate Snitch, and then Miao Ying is like, this belongs to me, and that is frustrating. And then you end up having to fight Lokir as well. So bear that in mind over there. Try and be careful about that. Try and pay attention to the faction strengths of both Snitch and Miao Ying. If you could potentially just sneak up on Snitch's capital and take it before Miao Ying, because that's the first settlement, by the way, that Miao Ying is probably going to take, because it's the direct one. So you might just be able to sneak up on that. And long term, yeah, you take over this entire territory. You stabilize the situation of Morathi. Don't ignore Morathi. Like, if you don't make at least a non-aggression pact, she will declare war on you eventually. And then go over here in the south, win Marcus Wolfhard, make an alliance with him, and then, yeah, deal with the Dark Elves, deal with the Rakarth, deal with the demonic factions, deal with with all of them over in this area of the campaign. You do need to take Hexuatl for your campaign victory objectives. And you do need to build one in the Star Tower, in the Southern Sentinels, and the Great Turtle Isle. So you need the Great Turtle Isle, so you certainly need to deal with Rakarth. You do need the Southern Sentinels, and the Star Tower is over here. So you have a long journey from here all the way to the south. But there's not really going to be any major faction that is going to stop you, except the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves are going to be the main concern you're going to have in this campaign as Yuan Bo, but you do have a fairly safe and strong position, and you do have a great deal of campaign power. And that is it. I do like this campaign, though I think... I do think Cathay was pretty dull to play overall in terms of their playstyle, and while they certainly have improved it, in fact, I kind of think like Cathay got the biggest improvements so far of all the races and factions. I don't think they've fundamentally fixed that. Like, you go from something like the Forge of the Chaos Dwarves with all the intricacies of the economy, the resources you have to deal with, to playing something like Cathay. It doesn't necessarily feel great. The Changeling feels great because he's very unique. Cathay does leave something to be desired from my perspective. Anyway, that is all I had to say on the subject. Costin signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.